I often go on excursions and field trips and immerse myself in nature. And in the process it becomes this beacon space. There's fertile ground where you appreciate and respect other kinds of knowledge, and that knowledge enriches everything. It really irks me to see stuff like lying around, especially natural waste. The material already has some kind of a memory of something else. Digging around archives and found objects, things that I like to work with, you get interesting invitations, and these things happen when you least expect it. The way that I build these interventions is quite deliberate. I make sure there are characteristics such as they can take part in walkabouts. There's an activation or participatory element where new audiences that might not ever have been in the arts actually have access to an experience that creates a space where new things are realized. The object that you see on the photographs in the end doesn't really show the process that the participant goes through. So for instance, 8-Buck, that's right outside the studio here, is actually from a memorial. The names changed that was supposed to be engraved onto these stones. So I spotted it at this factory because I like to go pick up junk at people's scrapyards. The history of the place sits in the sculpture. The same goes for the klipkopper at the Westcliff. I made 2 sets of stone heads, and the mining core that I collected from geologists were all unmarked or wasted. So those portraits were actually built from mining waste. Also in 2018, I started working on this massive work, the Nzunza, which is like 10 stories high. We had a team of mosaic artists all working together. I was deeply inspired by this researcher, Alex Kuman, who found that in the Nzunza pottery, there were markings of Basotho and Swazi paintings embedded inside the Nzunza Ndebele paintings. And what that meant, according to the researchers, is that the Nzunza had an open culture of like an ebb and flow of welcoming people in and letting people go. And I was so deeply inspired to learn that because it's new research, it's just come out. This is not knowledge that we've read in books before. The opportunity to actually share that kind of openness was very Joburg. You know, we have a very open way, we're a very entrepreneurial city. We were built on gold, and everybody just have to come make their life here and do it, you know, do it in a very resourceful way. So when you look at the Nzunza with all those pixelated plates, that's all pottery that I've collected from potters and then built this massive glazed artwork. The whole Sandton Gate process was wonderful. I just had access to industry, which I haven't had access before. And we wanted to work with white granite, to work with the building's design and so on. So we actually dynamited an offcut out of this quarry, and I basically deconstructed it so that it's placed on these poles where you can walk through. So you can look at this very, very old history as you're walking through. The other one is called Muse 2. It's a new technology that I've developed. It's a vertical garden system that holds a plant, and after I did the Nzunza in Braamfontein, I wanted to do a massive pixelated portrait, but that grows, that can actually cool the building down, and that can clear the air, clean the air. So in 2015, the Vanos Sculpture Park in southern Sweden invited 6 South African artists to come and work and have a residency, and they had a South African year. So in my usual style, I wanted to maximize the opportunity and ask them immediately what's the highest that their lumber trucks can pick big trees up, and what's the heaviest, and what's available. So I always see what's available, and then I build something with that. In my research, what I found is that the Swedes are more scared of wild boar than we are of lion. And I realized that as Africans, we're very different. We have reserved for really dangerous. And I wanted to bring that home. So in the past decade, making these works, I've learned to collaborate. I started working with Sally Archibald, who's a Savannah ecologist from Wits. She loves to figure out how ecology works within savannas. And she's always done these burns, and she was looking for a site in the Highveld, and she's always burnt in the Lowveld in the Kruger Park. And I said to her, well, I can arrange it for her at Nairock Sculpture Park, but then we're going to have to burn an image. We can't do block burns in a sculpture park. So we decided to work in a multidisciplinary way early on, where we worked in parallel. It was more like a partnership where we shared the land. What was exciting about that process is how open we both have stayed to learn how the other art versus science works. And now, after a good 6-7 years of these kinds of conversations, we actually are ready to really start working in a transdisciplinary way, where we prepare a next intervention that is intentionally there to help society adapt. So, to create these moments where a lot of people are immersed in understanding and seeing what they're looking at, and it's something new. It's things that have to be built and made by artists to help us all move along a bit quicker, because the eco art space is a wonderful space to do environmental work that can help society adapt in this really complex world that we're living in.